All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy Tuesday. Good to see you all again. Tonight's going to be a very, very, very fun night. We're changing it up a little bit tonight. We have Dweezil Zappa in the house joining us, and we're going to talk all things Van Halen. He has this new podcast coming out, Running with the Dweezil, that I've been listening to that has just been absolutely killer. So I'm gonna let a little dirty movies play for a minute and let you all join in. Welcome, get settled, grab a beverage. Here we go. Again, welcome everybody and happy Tuesday. Mods, I see you guys out there. Fantasy, good to see you. Matt, Cashew, Valerie, Austin, Robert, Vandy, Brian Burke, good to see you all. Let me bring this down here. So, like I mentioned before, tonight we have a very special guest, Dweezil Zappa. And we're doing all things Van Halen and talking about your new podcast. So now, Dweezil, this is a real treat for me, man. I've been a fan of your guitar playing for a long time. And like everybody else that, since Eddie's passing, has been deep diving and binging all the old stuff that we love. And track by track by track by track. And then when Jason from Premier Guitar pinged me and said, dude, you got to check out this new podcast Dweezil's doing, I jumped in and checked it out. And for those that don't know, the premise is basically this, that, you started by saying, I had two real main guitar, teachers, influences in my life, my dad and Eddie Van Halen. And then you have the best of the best guitar players in the world come and talk about the Van Halen records track by track and point out the little nuances that get them so excited. And what's so cool about that for me and for this group is that that's really what this channel, is all about. We share tracks and talk about and point out things that are awesome. So to hear you do it with Steve Vai and Paul Gilbert, and to hear the level of excitement that I feel when I'm listening to it is just the coolest shit ever. So I just want to say thank you for doing it, and thanks for coming on to talk about it. And it's a real treat, man.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I can hear you fine. So everybody, Hello out there. It's a treat to be able to talk about stuff that as a guitar player was so influential and be able to talk about it with also people that are influential to me as well. So there's a great list of players. As you said, Steve Vai's on there. Paul Gilbert. I just did an episode with Blues Saraceno, which it airs this week. The episodes go live every Thursday at noon Pacific time on dweezilzappa.com. And so earlier today I did an interview with Joe Satriani. There's going to be 30 episodes, maybe more, and most of them are going to be with world-renowned guitarists, but there might also be some other people in there that have other insights about Van Halen, not just about Van Halen as a band or Edward Van Halen or his guitars or equipment, but just like an overarching view. I know we're going to have Greg Renoff come on and talk about the things he knows about, and we can definitely just give everybody a really good perspective of all things Van Halen. But it's for the love of it. I mean, everybody everybody that gets involved is as excited about the music as I am, or as the hardcore fans, because it's, as soon as you heard Van Halen, if you're a guitar player, it changed your life, and that's just what this is.
I know. One of the things that I really have been enjoying so far about listening to the podcast is hearing how everybody sets up how they heard it the first time. You know, I wasn't alive when the first record came out, and obviously, I found Van Halen when I was 12 or 13 or etc. But I love hearing people like Vi paint the landscape of, I was 18. I was in Berkeley, and we dropped the needle on the vinyl, and it's like everybody's life changed at that exact instant, when you're
Yeah.
holding the thing, and that is something that I love hearing those stories, and again, I know you've only released 2 episodes so far, but both.
Three. We did 3.
Well, 2 was with Vi, right?
Well, there was 2 episodes with Steve, but there's still 2 separate episodes, and then the third one was Paul Gilbert, and the fourth one coming up is Blue Saraceno.
Right. So I've listened to the first 3 then, and I would encourage you all to take a listen to it, because they're actually really good storytellers. Especially, there's so many cool, especially Vi. I was so blown away by how much respect he had for Eddie's playing, and how well he communicated what it was like to be at Berkeley at that time and have that record come out, and what it meant to everybody. And Paul Gilbert, I thought I don't want to ruin it and spoil it for everybody, but he basically is doing David Lee Roth lines, on the guitar, and basically knows the whole catalog internally. I'm so excited for the rest of it, because the guests so far have just been absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, it's a fun thing. The episode that happens this week with Blue Saraceno has a moment in it that is pretty hilarious, because he starts telling a story, and I've known Blues for about 30 years.
Yeah.
But he starts telling a story I've never heard before, and he's telling me this story, and as he's telling it, I have to stop him, and I start asking him questions, and we start laughing about what he's saying, and we fall off the rails. Like, we can't get back on for about 2 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things where you get caught up in it, and as a listener, it's just an infectious laughing moment. And in 2020, we need a moment where you just start laughing like crazy. And this is one of those where it comes up, and it's a good time. Trust me, it's pretty funny.
I'm excited for it. So, what is your release schedule?
Every Thursday. Yeah, every Thursday. Yeah, noon Pacific time on dweezilzappa.com. And the thing is, these episodes, we are doing this thing. It's going to be, like I said, 30 episodes over, weekly. So this ends up being something that will be spread out over 6-7 months, because we may have some extra things that we're going to do as well. But it is a podcast that is kind of a membership type of thing, because you can buy it as bundles, or you can buy it as a la carte episodes. That the a la carte episodes are $2.99. You can choose which ones you want to listen to, or you can pick a package that works for you, that feels like it fits your budget. But the 5150 package is the one that gives you every single episode, plus we'll be having live events, kind of like what we're doing right now, where we'll be listening and we'll have some chats and things like that. But we're also doing an episode that we'll film that will be how you can recreate the Brown sound, or a Van Halen inspired sound for anybody. So we're going to use different kinds of equipment to show the different ways that you can get in the ballpark for this sound. And it's going to be a really fun science experiment to see what kind of gear we can use, different guitars, different amps. And we're specifically not going to try to do it with the stuff that he actually used.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it with other stuff.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, and I know that you uploaded, or people that buy the 5150, which I bought, you get XFS Kemper Helix presets, which is very cool. And for everyone else that is wondering, a portion of these proceeds also go to I know Van Halen's preferred charity, Mr. Holland's Opus, and for Feeding America. So I think that's cool, dude. So I just want to make sure people know that when they buy it. So let's see here. Let us see. So I asked you to bring a couple tracks. As you know, here we like to play music and we like to talk about it, and not just do straight up interviews. So I know that you sent me a few. I opened tonight with Dirty Movies. I after binging a lot of, like I said, the Van Halen records over and over again, there's a bunch of tracks that I've found that I had forgotten about. And I feel like I have worn out Dirty Movies. Like that, I feel like it's got the best chorus, that whole album, but that chorus in that tune, I just absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. So let me play a little bit of that for a second, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can advise me on which one of your tracks you want to start with.
Sure.
Let me bring this back here.
Now who's that babe with the fabulous shadow? So obscene, but to me it don't matter. Her movies get down like you won't find in my hometown. They won't believe it when they see what they're seeing. Go see baby now. Pictures on the silver screen. Greatest thing you've ever seen. Now her name is up in lights. Everything turns out alright. Daddy's little sweetie after some damn ring.
That one, man, the bass on that record and that track in particular, it just blows me away. I love that track so much.
Well, Fair Warning is the first record where drop D tuning riffs show up in Van Halen's playing. And that's a drop D riff, and Unchained, Hear About It Later. So that was a big thing for Ed. He got really creative with that drop D tuning. But the riff, Dirty Movies, it's super funky, and the tone is just vicious, you know.
Yeah.
The whole sound he has on that record is my favorite guitar sound of his in general.
Yeah, no, that is just I had forgotten about that album. You know, it's one of those things, you know, like you love.
You forgot about Fair Warning? What's wrong with you?
I know. So anyway, you're up. Actually, I tell you what, while you're thinking of that, let me just say hi to some people real quick, because a bunch of people on here are saying hi to you, so I want to make sure they get it. Yeah, Vandy says hi. Beware.
Hi,
Bill,
Vandy.
U.S. Elite Ski, Uncle Joe, Fantasy. Oh, by the way, Fantasy's dropping lots of links to the links to his podcast and everything else are in the description if you guys are curious. Devoted to Mariah, good to see you. Darian, John, Deuce, loves the bass sound. Cool. All right, so where do you want to start, my friend? Where do you want to start?
Well, just real quick, since we were already talking about the Fair Warning album, coming up in some of the future episodes, we did 2 episodes on Fair Warning. Actually, it's probably going to end up being 3, because I spoke with Nuno Betancourt, and that's going to end up being 2 episodes. We talked for 4 hours, so it's going to be 2 episodes.
Yeah,
But I also
love it.
I also spoke with Billy Corgan, and so it's a really amazing thing to see the perspectives of what these players see in that album and what turned them on to new ideas. And for me, one of the greatest things on that record is the solo from Push Comes to Shove. And both Nuno and me, when we were talking about it, we were listening and we pinpointed the exact note in it that was like a life-changing moment. So we had the same epiphany on the same note at the same time.
Okay.
So it's a really amazing solo, but he does something where he marks a chord change by bending a half step into the next change. And it's one of those things where if you're a kid and you're learning to play guitar and you don't really know about playing over chord changes or anything, you hear it and you think, you could do that? Who would have thought to do? It's this perfect little bend from one, just a half step into the next. And it's one of the best things that's ever happened in music for me. I loved it.
All right. So
did Nuno.
All right. So let me try to find this. The Push Comes to Shove. And I'm going to try to find
Solo.
the lead here. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Some people live apart.
What a great groove too. I love that they do songs like this.
Well, this one is what they would call their only reggae song.
They described this as reggae?
Yes.
Okay. We'll let it play for a second, and then I'll jump ahead to the lead. The reggae.
Yep. Yeah.
Break your heart so damn easy.
Yeah, the offbeats.
And then one night in stunning victory, she decides and you agree she's leaving. Will you ever be the same? Will you ever be the same? That's when push comes to shove.
All right, I'm going to try to find the lead here.
It's
Yep.
a little further up.
So some
Here we go.
Here it comes.
Let's listen to that again. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
It's right before it. It's right before that.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's killer, man.
It's an amazing thing. The lick that comes right after it is also just this beautiful rolling around kind of triplets thing. But this is maybe his most worked out solo. And the very intro of it, it sounds, if you didn't know what he was doing, it sounds like he's using the vibrato bar pressed down and then playing into the notes. But he's actually taking his finger on his right hand as he bends the note on his left hand. He's sliding on the string and then using that kind of motion to work the notes. So if you listen to the opening, knowing that he's sliding this hand and then ending on a bend, it's really cool. I mean, it really sounds pretty amazing.
Let's let the whole lead play through again for everybody. Yeah, dude.
It's just such an amazing solo because it's got so many of his unique ideas. The tone is amazing, but his phrasing and his vibrato, it's kind of like I don't know. To me, it's its own composition. It really is. It's an amazing thing that he did there. And at this time, he was really into Alan Holdsworth a lot.
Yeah.
And he was helping Alan Holdsworth make a record right around the same time. He helped him get a record deal. So he was really inspired by some kind of outside ideas and textures, and you can hear it. He's really creative on the Fair Warning record.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, and I know we've all talked about this, and you go on it in your podcast, is I love how he's just a rhythm first player almost to death, and that he and his brother are so linked in that there's almost no separation. And like you in one of your podcasts, I forget which guest it was, but you isolate this one lick where he comes out of the solo, and this is on the record, not live, and it doesn't cut right to the rhythm part. It goes over a bar, and then he just picks up like the second half of the riff coming out of it. And
yeah,
it's
in You Really Got Me. And if you look for online, there's, these days there shouldn't be, but we're lucky that there are. There's lots of places where you can hear isolated tracks of Van Halen. Yeah. And the rhythm track of You Really Got Me, when he does all of his in between fills, you can hear he's got amazing sense of what's going on everywhere. But this one particular lick, he plays over the bar line, so he does not come down with the actual beginning of the riff. But also the riff has kind of like a pickup into it anyway.
Yeah.
So that that's maybe why he wasn't straight on the downbeat. But it's pretty amazing to hear. His inner clock is just so good with all that stuff.
It is, and there's just so many things to talk about. But I wanted to bring up this one track. You've probably seen it. Now, given there's not a lot of good, even bootleg, Van Halen footage out here on YouTube. A lot of the quality is pretty rough. But there's a concert that I watched the other day from 1982 from here in Maryland, and there's this one part of Unchained. I'm going to pull it up here and play it, but he does exactly what we're talking about live in Unchained, and there's this, and he did it all the time, but it is such a great additional example of what you're talking about, where he's ad-libbing this lead, right? And even though it goes straight to the rhythm part, like where Dave is singing, he just continues it, but only like a little bit extra, and then comes in perfectly like right on the rhythm part. And it was so just fluid. It was such a cool thing that I'm gonna bring up and show everybody right now that I found while hunting in the Van Halen weeds. So this is live 1982. Again, forgive the quality, but I'm going to let it play for a minute, but when it happens, I'll start and stop it and point it out to everybody. Here we go. right there. I don't know if
A little flutter.
it's a little flutter, but instead of so that part, you know, he does that descending kind of triad part on the top for the verse, but he does that little flutter into it and then catches it on top, not like the riff part. And it's such a cool little nuance. Let me see if everybody see if you can hear this when he comes out of here. Little snags like that just get me going. I love people that are just, you know, it's not this is lead time, this is rhythm time. It's you can throw those little trills in and then grab a higher little shit like that gets me going.
Well, let's just talk about the fact that there were no big screens on that stage. This was a band that was working the stage, running around like crazy. They had so much energy. At this time, the tour right before this one, and then this one, this was the apex of their abilities. I mean, musicianship off the charts, but showmanship. There was nobody that could beat Van Halen for bringing a show to town like that. I mean, just the lights are down. They start playing that riff. The lights come up, and they're all over the place. Dave's jumping and whatever. I mean, you can. If you saw it then, you will never lose that feeling. You can see it right now and be like, oh, it was just so cool, you know, but it's like for the people that never experienced it, they're like, well, I don't know what you're talking about because, you know, I'm happy to watch a concert with my phone in front of my face, you know.
You know, you bring up such a great point about the screens. People go to shows and they look at the screens and not at the stage. Now, I will say this actually came up in last live stream I did last week. There are some bands out there that don't allow people to bring cameras or phones and don't do screens. The one that always comes to mind is Tool. But that's few and far between.
Well, it's really hard to police, and then some people get mad because, you know, they're, oh, it's my phone, you can't take my phone, and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, it's just one of those things where there's a few generations that just don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they missed, and you can explain it to them, but they may never really feel it the way that, you know, when you used to have to stand in line just to buy a record, that was a totally different thing. You know, you'd go, there'd be, you know, record stores would be filled with people and you'd have to wait around. And if a brand new record was coming out, there might be a line outside just to buy a record. And now people are like, buy a record? Why would I buy music? You know, that's the thing that's so insane. You know, if you start thinking about it, it becomes kind of infuriating because, for example, right now, nobody can go out and play live shows. Musicians that count on playing to an audience to keep their lights on, everybody's struggling right now. But we watch a concert like that and you think, oh, it's so cool to be at an event like that and see people playing. And then at the same time, we're at a place in our lives where you can't do that. And the fact is, people aren't buying music the way they used to, and they're thinking that, oh, well, you know, if I could have music in my life, I'll just use Spotify because I can have access to millions of songs. But they don't realize that doesn't really help any artist, because an artist is only going to make nano pennies on that. You know, it seems like a good deal to a consumer because they think, oh, great, I can have any song anytime I want. But an artist, it takes 3.8 million streams for an artist to make minimum wage. All right. So, and if you can't tour and you have to get 3.8 million streams to make minimum wage, what are musicians going to do? You know, it's really tough.
Yeah, they're doing it now. They're not doing anything. It's really hard. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take this point to segue a little bit, because I know reward music is something you wanted to talk about this, to try to give artists a new kind of different path, to handle this. I can tell you from my experience, I am, of course, a consumer and guilty for paying my $10 a month for YouTube Premium so I don't get ads and I get to listen to all the music. But when I find an artist that I want to support, I go and buy their record, even though I would get it on the stream. But that's about all we can do short of concert tickets. And if you can't tour, you can't tour. But yeah, let's talk about reward music a little bit.
Well, what you just said, though, is also important because there's a lot of people that would do what you're talking about. If they like a particular band, they will buy their record. But you can go a step further and you can buy it directly from them.
Yes.
And that is the thing that reward music is designed to do. So reward music is essentially a platform that gives an artist the ability to have all of their stuff in one place. So they could do something like what we're doing right now on Reward Music, but they could also have all of their merchandise, all of their videos, all of their music, and they can have a community and they can have it exactly. It's the equivalent of having your own YouTube, your own Facebook, your own Instagram, your own, Spotify, but it's for a single artist. So every artist that builds their own page has their own world that has all of these things in it. So the real thing behind it is just to be able to have one place, make it easier for people to find you and support you in one place. And in doing so, it's called reward music because if you are a fan and you're supporting your favorite artist, you will start to get reward points for everything you do on there. If you are writing comments, if you're opening emails, if you're interacting with the community, if you're posting pictures, you start earning reward points. So that means if something's $10 and you do a bunch of things for a week on the site, now it's going to be $8 or it's going to be $7. It depends on the stuff that you do. So you can start saving money just because you're engaging in the community. And if you bring people there and you're friends with people on there, it helps. But the whole point is that you create a community that is direct. An artist gets to have a direct relationship with the fans, and it's a permission-based ecosystem. So if you're in that community, you're giving your email, you're giving permission to be part of the group that says, hey, I want to know more about this. I want to be part of this. And that's, if you think about it, if the internet was created today, every artist would say, you know what would be great? I'd like a place where I could have one place that I just have to put my stuff there, tell people to come find me, and I can be in touch with them instead of having to go 6, 7, 8, 10 places. And a perfect example is if you're a brick and mortar business, if you're a bank, for example, if you walked into a bank, you're going to be sat down and you're going to be able to open up an account and you're going to work with that person in that building right there. They're not going to tell you when you get to the door, hey, great, thanks for coming. Now go 7 other places. But that's what artists do with their website is they say, hey, here's my website. Now go to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Snapchat, my, whatever. And that's diluting the whole thing because if you look at the biggest companies like an Amazon or Apple, if you go to that website, they don't want you to leave. They want you to go there and get everything and stay there as long as possible and do everything from one place. And that's what artists really need to be able to do and should do directly with their fans. And that's what Reward Music was built to do. And we started it in September and it's up and running. And that's what I use for my website. So the podcast is on there. And my music is on there, and soon I'll be doing more events, kind of like the stuff that we're doing right now. I'm going to be having live events, but any artist could do a concert on there at any time. And Sunset Sound, the really popular recording studio where Van Halen recorded their first early albums, they're using it as their platform to create concert events. So if you go to record at Sunset Sound and you want to do a live concert, they can totally stream it live and it will go through Reward. And this is the kind of stuff that we had to make during this downtime. This is
Yeah.
something I started working on a while back, but during this downtime, we said we've got to bring this to the forefront sooner rather than later, because people need the ability to connect with their fans and do something that's really just it's the closest thing to you being a musician and having your guitar case open and a hat on the corner and saying, I'm playing you a song. If you like it, hey, chip in, whatever. That's what musicians are. We're at that point where you have to have a fan base that's willing to say, hey, I like what you're doing. I'm going to support you because I like it. And it's not about, oh, you have the most clever Instagram or whatever. It's about, I like your music. I like you. I'm going to do something, and let's have this relationship together. And the fans that will find artists that way can make a huge difference. And it really turns into something that will surprise people because, for example, we were talking about Spotify, 3.8 million streams to make minimum wage. Now, if you're an artist and you have a smaller audience that you're going to start with, you can actually beat minimum wage with a simple subscription model that is $2.50 a month for just 700 people subscribing to an artist. Yep. You can beat minimum wage. So that's very different than 3.8 million people to get nano pennies. Mm-hmm. So if you start looking at giving people a curated experience with a much smaller audience and growing it and making it sustainable, you can actually have a sustainable income as a musician, focusing on making better music and curating this music for your audience and giving them something that's better. If you're not thinking about, I got to be ubiquitous and be everywhere and have to have millions and millions of followers, you could have less people and give them something better, and then they're involved in it more often. But it still can grow. But the point is, you can do it with less, and people don't realize that.
I'm so happy that we're having this conversation because, one, obviously COVID has forced a lot of people to think about this that haven't thought about it. But from a totally different perspective, but a similar skill set from an educational perspective, or just doing anything online, it's so easy to fall into the trap of, I need millions of this to make sense, and I need to be on everything to make sense, and you need to be so huge. But really, at the end of the day, if you can have 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, 5,000 people that support you directly, whether it's $2 or $3 or that just buy everything that you make, you can have a life and do your art and support yourself and be happy and make real impact with other people. You don't have to always build rocket ships. You can still build them one person at a time on the internet. And I'm so glad that you're bringing that conversation to light, because that's what I do on the education side. I don't sell albums or records or anything, but I get it, and I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying.
Well, it makes perfect sense, and especially if you're talking about artists that also have the ability to teach, because on Reward, you can do all of that stuff as well. You have the ability with Reward Music to have any content be subscribable or behind a paywall if you want it to. So you can have podcasts, or you could do cooking lessons, or you could do guitar lessons, or you could do yoga. You could do whatever you want, but you can make it that it fits who your fans are and what you want to share with them. And it doesn't mean that you can't use social media to promote it, but the perfect scenario is to be able to use social media to promote things and say, hey, I'm doing this, but if you want to support me, come to this one location, which would be your Reward Music page, for example. But just to understand it, it becomes essentially your website. So mine is dweezilzappa.com, but it's powered by Reward Music. Mm-hmm. And so you would still have your own URL, easy to find, all that stuff. But that's the point, is that if you can create that relationship directly with your fan base, you have a much better chance of creating a sustainable career, because at this point in time, so many things have been taken away from the musicians. And when you really look at what's going on and the way they're trained to promote themselves, they're always giving their stuff away, and they're not getting the emails and that direct ability to communicate with people. Guess who is? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. And all those companies, you know, you might enjoy using them or you might not, but what they do is they get all the stuff and they're able to monetize all your fans' information and all that. But when they want to contact you, they don't tweet to you. They send you an email because they have your email. You know, you need emails, and you need that relationship with people, and you need a permission-based, humane technology that is something that you keep sacred between you and your fan base, that's not being shared and sold against you and all these things.
Dude, you're preaching to the choir, man. You get it. I'm so happy to hear you talk about all this. I could not agree more. The way I always explain it to people when this conversation comes up is that, you know, whatever your goals are, if you're using social media or whatever to get your message out, that should be the beginning of the conversation. It should not be the end of the conversation. So people make their big Instagram channels, you know, to build this big Instagram following for what? You know, they build this big YouTube channel, this YouTube following for what? You know, they do all these different, they're in all these places. They have a whole Amazon store for what? But I believe what you're saying is right, that should be the beginning of the conversation, and the deep connection should happen on something on your terms, you know, your site, your page, where you can communicate with each other and you can talk to them and they feel like they have an actual relationship with you and the other people like them, the community. They get to meet each other and talk. I think it's huge. So, guys, the links to Reward Music are in the comments. I see the mods dropping them in there left and right. And Dweezil, real quick, before we keep going, I just want to say hi to the super chatters out there.
Sure.
David Guitar Madman says hello. He said it might be his only chance, so he says hi. Vandy, thanks for throwing a super chat, so I see that. I also see, let's go down here. I see a couple big super chats here. Hold on a second. Oh, it's scrolling past me.
There was somebody that said, all I want for Christmas is a Dweezil Zappa shout out, but then it went away, so I don't know who the guy was that wanted that. But
well, anyway, it's LIEUT89 shot a 50 and said to Reward Music and please buy direct. So thank you very, very much. Very cool. And guys, if you don't know, a lot of you do know this, but I obviously split all the donations with my guests. So if you send a 50 for Reward Music, I'll be sending it your way. But yeah, dude, I get it. I totally get it, and I'm glad that it just launched in September. We'll put the links to it, and I hope we can spread the word and get more artists to take a little ownership and not be just, you know, at the behest of the ether, you know.
Well, I mean, it really is a thing that fans can help do as well, because if they really want to support someone directly, they should go to their website. They should see what's going on. So if they have their own website that already has certain things set up where you could buy it directly, you should buy it from them if you can.
Absolutely.
But, you know, if they have a Reward Music site, they'll be able to do everything. They'll have all of their videos, their live broadcasts, their subscribable content, a community. You can be part of, it's like what we're doing now, you can be doing with that artist on their page. There's so many things that are available in terms of the tools that you can use that exist with Reward Music. And, you know, just really the biggest challenge is getting people to understand that musicians, they're struggling because they don't have the tools that they used to be able to have. Now, if they have to go into teaching, that's probably one option. But if they can't teach, what are they going to do if they can't play? Like if you are a musician and you're you spent your whole life learning to be good at playing music, and now you can't even go into a venue and play. Like, you can't even go into a restaurant and play.
I know.
You know,
I know.
it's
I know.
like,
It's crazy.
so it really is nuts. And that's why this is so important for people to understand. The direct relationship can be beneficial for the fan and the musician, because it can be a curated experience that is built on this mutual relationship. Reciprocation, reward points.
That's it. Well, love it. Like I said, we're linked up.
It was Preston Karen that said, all I want
Yes.
for Christmas is a Dweezil Zappa shout out. Okay, Preston Karen, this is your shout out. Have a very Merry Christmas. I hope you and your family stay safe and enjoy the festivities.
Love it. Thank you. All right. So, guys out there, so we're going to play a couple more tracks. Dweezil bought a couple more. I got one or two more. But if you have any questions or any deep cuts out there that you'd like to have him listen to that you think might be fun, feel free to drop them in there, mods. I see you guys working hard out there. I'm doing my best to keep track of what you're pinging me on, but it moves fast, as you know. So, what do you want to play? What do you want to play, sir? You sent me, I think, 4 links. Let's jump into something that you picked.
Well, one of them was a piece of music that I learned to play that is one of my dad's songs. But as a kid, this was my favorite song, because when you're 4 or 5 years old and you're hearing a song about pancakes, that's a good song. Now, it just so happens to be it's very, very, very hard to play on guitar. And one of the reasons that I mentioned playing just the very end of it is you'll see how hard it is to play on guitar. But I was opening for Jeff Beck in Los Angeles. I was playing a show, and Edward Van Halen came to the show. He came to the sound check. And afterwards, you know, he had heard us play this song, and he was like, "That song is crazy. What are you doing?" And so we were backstage, and I was showing it to him, and he just said, "I don't even know how you're doing that. I could never play that." And so right then and there, it was, for me, it was the weirdest thing, because here I was 12 years old. I used to see things that Ed did, and that was the first time I got to meet him when I was 12, and I saw him play Mean Street and Eruption.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I can never do that. And then, 30 years later, he's in my dressing room at my show saying, I can never do that. So it was the weirdest. It's kind of like, Jedi role reversal. It's crazy.
I love it. I can't wait to hear it. Okay, so this is St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast Live. And did you give me a timestamp?
Well, I didn't for this one. It's just, it's a short song. So I would say if you back it up, the last maybe 35, 40 seconds of it will be the part that I'm talking about.
I'll give people a little bit more than that. We'll go for at least a minute. Let's see here. Oh my God.
This is very, very hard.
I'm certain it will be, sir. All right, let's go for about right here.
The Marjorie.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, dude, that's bananas. It's indescribable. I wouldn't know where to begin.
Well, it took a long time to learn to play that. And then, of course, you got to play it with a super clean sound. So you have absolutely nothing to help you out there. So that's a brutal exercise in guitar playing right there. But I love that piece of music. And it was originally written for marimba. So to play that on guitar was a real challenge because there's a lot of fourths in there, and fourths are very hard on guitar because you either have to have a big stretch or they're located like one note above the other. So you have to do things where you bar across, and then the picking becomes a nightmare. So that song is just really hard. It's one of the hardest songs, but yet it doesn't sound like it because it's like this upbeat thing. But good luck trying to play it up to tempo. It's really, really hard.
It sounds like it to me, man. So how did you go about learning stuff like that? I mean, did your dad have that stuff written out? Could you?
Yeah, he wrote that out.
Were you a good reader? Have you been more of an
No,
ear person?
all by ear. I learn everything by ear. The band can read. Everybody in the band is very good at reading, but I learn everything by ear. So stuff like that is just, sit down, slow it down, and just work it.
Jesus. So, I mean, I feel like that would take me months and not working on anything else.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now you're talking about something that goes by in I'm going to say less than 15 seconds, so it's months of time for something that is not even a minute's worth of music. And that's where it really is the kind of thing that separates you from being a complete lunatic and, possibly being a musician. Because you have to really want to learn to play that and stick with it if you're going to do it at all, because it's maddening. You start at a slow tempo and you build it up, and it's like training for the Olympics and also being like a SEAL team member.
I literally can't imagine. On that note, let's play the other one you said, another crazy hard song.
Okay, this one, the part in this one where I did give you the timing, this is actually really insane. The whole piece of music has a lot going on. There's some really wild harmonies, but the piece of music is called G-Spot Tornado. And
Terrific name, by the way.
Yeah, if you go to the section where I mentioned, that's the part where it's the craziest. But if you let it play after that, you'll hear that the rest of the melody is also crazy. Even though it's a little easier than the hardest part that I'm showing you, this song was a nightmare to learn to play on guitar.
All right, I'm gonna start it. I think you said 2:30. Let's pull this up, and we'll let it play for a little bit after, right?
Yeah, so maybe even slightly before 2:30, and you're good. But it's crazy.
Yep. Let's see here. I mean, so
yeah.
So what this reminds me of, again, you and Vi were talking about it on your podcast, where you were saying, or I think I think Vi was saying how your dad was talking to him one time. He's like you got to be careful, just with that hair, just a little bit of wind gust might throw you off one of these notes because this
Yeah.
is some hard shit here, Steve. And it's like I'm watching it and I'm watching your face and I'm watching everybody in the band and it's just complete consternation, just like you are so dialed in. I mean, there's no room for error in there.
Well, it's so hard, and the thing is, it probably took me about 4 months to learn how to play that song, and I haven't played it for years. But if I had to sit down and try to learn it again, it would take me at least another 4 months, just from start to finish, because it's so hard. Technically, it's hard to remember. There's so many notes in that song, and I just don't. There is no way for you to pretend to play this music. You have to really work at it.
Yeah, I exactly. And that brings us back to Van Halen because like after you had that conversation with Vi, one of the things you both pointed out was the way that, like you said, the way that this highly technical stuff could be played running, jumping, sliding
Yeah.
across with the knees is just because there was such a freedom to it. It was just really special.
Well, the difference between what we were just talking about and what you're talking about now is that when I'm learning to play a piece of my dad's music that's really hard like that, I can learn to play it because I can hear it and I can do it, but I still have to stay very focused because I'm trying to remember what's happening. But if it's your own music and you wrote it and it's
Sure.
naturally coming out of you, it's a different thing. And that's, so for Ed, it was so natural for him. So he could do all the stuff that he did to make the show amazing, running around, jumping off things, smashing into his amplifiers and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And some of the stuff that he plays is very, very hard. It's maybe not as hard as some of the stuff you just saw, but it's not that much, easier, so it's the stuff that he did was truly amazing. His musicianship, the whole band's musicianship
Totally.
was incredible. And then the fact that they put on such an amazing show, that is like, there's just nobody that could beat them at that time. And there's some cool videos out there now, like the Selland Arena stuff from Fresno on their first tour.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great thing. I mean, Ed's playing the dragon guitar and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, everybody's amazing. David Lee Roth is amazing in that video. And the Oakland videos were Unchained and Hear About It Later. They're just so good.
Yeah, they are. So before we play some more tracks, you got some more super chatters here. Fishing on an Idaho. I know you've said it before and you go to it in depth on your podcast, but wants to hear the first time you met Eddie. Just give us a quick little rundown if you don't mind.
Sure. So you gotta go back to a time before MTV, before social media. There once was a time when all you had was a record and some liner notes, or you had the occasional magazine that would have an article about some of your favorite musicians. And maybe you could hear an interview on the radio and possibly hear that person's voice. Mm-hmm. But mostly you just had a record. So I was really listening to a lot of Van Halen, and just out of nowhere, one day at around 8 o'clock at night, a phone call came into the house, and it was a guy purporting to be Edward Van Halen. And so my mom answered the phone, and I heard her talking, and she eventually held her hand over the phone and says, "This guy says he's Eddie Van Halen," and I'm like, "What?" So then, you had phones in the house where you could go click on a button and pick up the other line and like listen from another room.
Oh my God.
And she wanted me to see if I could tell if it was him. And, I couldn't tell. The only thing that could have possibly given away his voice was on Fair Warning during Unchained, where you hear somebody say, "Come on, Dave, give us a break," which I think was ultimately Ted Templeman who said that. But
I think so.
I have no idea what Eddie Van Halen sounded like. But of course, my dad ends up getting on the phone with him. And 15 minutes later, he shows up at our house. Now, he walks up the stairs. He's in the women and children first jumpsuit. He's got a Van Halen necklace, with the Van Halen logo, and he's carrying a guitar, not in a guitar case. It's a purple Kramer guitar, but we didn't know the name of the guitar at the time because it had a piece of black tape over the headstock.
Yeah.
And so he brought this guitar. It had 2 humbuckers, and it had a Rockinger tremolo system on it, which was before Floyd Rose tremolos. Anyway, he walks in, and as he's walking up the steps, for me, he might as well have been backlit with a smoke machine, because this was like seeing a real superhero. This was, I had all this. It was amazing just seeing this happen. It didn't seem real.
Yeah.
And he's coming up the stairs, and he comes into the studio, and of course, the first thing that happens after saying hello is like, you got to plug in, and I got to see how you play Eruption and Mean Street. So he played all that stuff, and I got to see it up close. But it was burned into my mind because I saw it. And I'd only been playing guitar for 9 months at that moment, but that was like, I knew that I was going to focus totally on guitar at that point. There was no question. So it was an amazing experience.
That is so cool. And then how often did you guys actually keep the connection going and hang out, as time passed and you progressed more as a player? How often did you actually get together?
It would be off and on over different periods of time. After that first meeting, he was around a few more times, and then not long after that, miraculously, and I still don't know how this happened, but he ended up being the producer of the very first song that I ever recorded, which was called My Mother's a Space Cadet. And it was Edward as the producer and Don Landy as the engineer. And we did it at the studio at our house. My dad had built a studio.
Yeah.
And I think Ed might have called my dad because he was thinking about building 5150 at the time. And my dad had a home studio, and he wanted to talk about studio stuff. But somehow or another, Edward was enlisted to become the producer of this thing. So me and my 12-year-old friends are in the studio with Edward Van Halen recording this song, and it's the craziest thing. One of the guys that played on it was a guy named Greg Kirsten. He's a keyboardist and a record producer, and he's worked with huge artists like Adele and Katy Perry, and he also did a Van Halen cover album, but not in the style of Van Halen, just a totally different thing. It's I think it's like something and the Bee, like Bumble and the Bee, or I can't remember.
Yes, where they take, but there's no guitar in it. I've heard that. It's actually very, very good.
Yeah, so Greg Kirsten is the one who did that album, but he played keyboards on My Mother's a Space Cadet. And so when we were doing that recording, I remember Edward coming out in between takes to give us some pointers on things that we needed to do better because, we're 12 and we've only barely been playing. And but he was saying to us, like, I don't know what to do with you guys. Is it time for a milk and cookie break? So it was just pretty funny to have that experience. And one of the things that's on that record is we used to have these little toy ray gun things, and they made these little laser sounds. Yeah. And we recorded those into the microphone. And so there's these weird little chirping sounds that you hear in the song. And that's those little ray guns, for My Mother is a Space Cadet, the little space theme.
Very cool. Thank you very much. All right, next up, Rico USA shoots 25, says he loves rewards, hopes it'll be successful, and he hopes to see you at Fayetteville, Georgia's Majestic again in 2021. And apparently you signed his friend's drum head next to your dad's signature, and you are the best. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. We hope to be able to get back out and play again ourselves, and hope to see you there.
And then next up, Tom Haviland is a regular on this channel. Tom, thanks so much. Says, just want to say how much I love this. And he's got a request for you. You feel like listening to something you might not have heard before?
Sure, I know who Ian Fletcher Thornley is. So
yeah, he's been a guest on this channel. Do you know that that track "Fool"?
I may not know it by name, but I might have heard it. But
let's play a couple minutes of it.
It's great.
yeah, Big Wreck is amazing. Yeah, Ian is such a cool guy too, and just a tremendous singer, player.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we'll play a couple minutes for you, Tom. Thanks so much for the super chat. I do love him, man.
It's killer.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
really, really good. No question.
He's really, really, really good. Oh, Chuck, thank you so much. All right. So we've been going a little while. I wanted to share one or two other things with you. I've been thinking about making a series called Uncoverable songs, or big songs that you see just that you don't see anybody cover. And one of my favorite Van Halen tunes that I never see anybody cover or cover well is "Drop Dead Legs," and again, I've been binging Van Halen, and I found some footage of them doing it in 2015 when Wolf started playing bass and Roth came back around, and I realized after digging through some forums that was the first time they ever did it live. Did you know that?
Yeah, well, I can't remember on if they played it at all in 1984. They might not have. If Wolfgang got them to do it then, that might be the only time.
Yeah, apparently that that song, and they did a bunch of other like Dirty Movies. They did Dirty Movies like almost every one on that tour. They never did live, and that was one of my favorite songs, especially from 1984. And so I wanted to play this little clip of Drop Dead Legs, and I was looking around to see if there were any other bands or anybody that covered this, and there's none really. There's basically none that do it right, that sounds good. And yes, this is a fan video and the quality's crap, I get it. I get it. But this is, to me, this is one of these quintessential, Van Halen brother licks where, like, when you get to see him on the stage, you get to see his kind of sense of inner timing,
Yeah.
and just the way that the chords go over the bar line and where you see him feel the groove. It's like, it's just, I just think this is a great thing to see. It's 2015. It's an older clip, or sorry, a newer clip, but this is such a great tune to to do live. I just think it's so cool. I wish I would have seen them do this one. Let's bring this up. But it's just wild timing on this track. It's deceivingly difficult if you've never tried to learn this one.
And then the palm muting to get it right is also very difficult.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like to me, it's got that, it's different, I know, but it's got that kind of like AC/DC-ish thing where the drums are like the straight ahead drums and the guitar is all the groove in the other space. You know what I mean? It's like this fatness. Yeah. It's this fatness that swings throughout like this static kind of thing. It just the way that it he's so relaxed and it's not coming in hard and sharp. It's very calm. It's all, and you see his body language. It's all just big time groove. I love watching that. He played
a lot of great stuff. The album version has great tone, and his outro solo is very kind of Alan Holdsworth inspired. Some outside noises and things. It's great. It's a great riff. I noticed there was somebody in the chat who was posting several times saying, please talk about hearing loss. And they wanted to know if I had any hearing loss. Unfortunately, I do not have any hearing loss, but it is important for people to pay attention and protect their ears. People that have, I never know if it's supposed to be pronounced tinnitus or tinnitus because, people pronounce it different ways. But the when you do have hearing problems as a musician, it can throw you into a total depression because the thing that you love so much now is taken away from you and not being able to hear it properly. And I have had a couple of times we use in-ear monitors, and I've had a couple of times where before a tour, I've had to go get my ears checked or get my ears cleaned because you get wax buildup. But there was like a little bit of water that got stuck behind, I guess, some wax. And it was kind of throwing my equilibrium off for a bit. And it started to make me feel like I was losing some hearing. And in that moment, I was like, oh, man, this would not be good to, have this be, it's like this now, So I feel for anybody that is struggling with that. And I know I had a friend of mine in Chicago who's had some problems with it. But apparently there's some actual vitamin regimens that can actually really improve some of this stuff, which is a good thing. So I don't know, people, hopefully if anybody's suffering from it, they can find some relief with a couple of different things. But there's a guy named Andy Bourne, who's a chiropractor in Louisville, Kentucky. And this guy knows a lot of different stuff that can help you with all kinds of things. So even the tinnitus stuff. So look up Andy Bourne if you're struggling.
Okay. I dig that. Yeah, I always have thought that I had hearing loss, and I was having throat issues a couple, years ago. And the first thing that they do, when you come in, and you're like, "Oh man, my throat's screwed up or whatever." They're like, "Well, maybe you're screaming all the time because you can't hear," and they make you do your whole hearing check. And somehow or another, they said I had perfect hearing, but I don't believe it at all. My shit still rings all the time. But
Well, I
what are you
never
gonna
get
do?
that. I never get the ringing unless I'm exposed to something really loud for extended periods of time. I might get a little bit for a short while after. But
Cymbals.
the well, yeah, the in-ear monitors help you protect yourself from
Yeah.
direct transient stuff, but you also do have music and frequencies that are pumped directly into your ears. Just got to be careful not to turn it up too terribly loud when you're playing. But the thing that's always weird to me is that I never get like a perfect seal. Some people, when they have their in-ears, the seal is so good that they can't hear anything that you're saying or hear anything outside of what's going on. I never have that issue. If somebody's talking to me and I have my ears in, I still can hear them. But other people on stage, you're tracking them down like, "Hey, talking to you," and they're,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, my in-ears are in." So I don't so I've never had any issue with it, and hopefully will not have any issues with it.
Right on. All right, well let's do a couple more here. Our good moderator friend Beware here wants to do a little Zappa plays Zappa if you don't mind. He wants to do you and Vi trading some licks.
You can throw that one on, sure.
All right, here we go. Thank you so much for the super chat. What timestamp did you give me? 15:25. And guys, again, if you have any other questions or anything else, we're gonna do maybe one or two more. We're not gonna keep Dweezil forever, but if you have anything burning, please drop it in the chat. And Dweezil, just kind of keep an eye on it.
Sure.
Here we go. Yeah. All right. Oh,
And that
I'm
was just
feeling-
one night.
I know. Don't you miss it? Don't you miss it?
Well, that was a lot of fun. I mean, how could you not have fun
Oh,
doing
God.
something like that? And it's fun music to play over the playing with Terry Bozzio there as well.
Oh, dude, yeah, that drum kit. Look at that thing, dude. He's a
It
monster.
was totally nuts. I guess if before we go, you might want to play that one Crazy Train video that I sent you because I'm using the Van Halen Rasta guitar. That's the guitar that Ed played on the Fair Warning tour. It used to be the Circles guitar, then he painted it as the Rasta guitar. And so this is, I'm in this video, I'm playing Randy Rhoads parts on Crazy Train, and Jack Black is singing the Ozzy Osbourne stuff, and he forgets the lyrics, and it's pretty good.
All right, amazing. Here we go. This is Tenacious D with Dweezil Zappa doing Crazy Train.
All but that's how it goes. Millions of people living in gold. Maybe it's not too late.
Thank you, Brandon.
And forget how to hate. Make the world not feeling like a big concern. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. Let's go.
Let's bump up to the lead real quick.
Sure.
You gotta listen to my words,
Oh my God, Kyle Gass. Kyle Gass.
Well, the thing is, right where you stopped it, then you got to see Jack
Okay.
Black. He takes his pants off.
Oh, well, we gotta watch it.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Get Dweezil beat it. Yeah. Are there more lyrics? There's more lyrics? Alright, here goes. Don't know the lyrics. I'll sing anyway. It just do not matter. Don't mean that I'm dead. I'm gonna put your feet out. I'm cocked up to you. I fucking believed ya, and I had to screw. Make the world not feeling like a big touchdown. I'm going out the rails on the crazy trail. I'm going out the rails on a crazy train. Let's go!
Oh my
Well, there you go.
God. You know, we might just have to end it on that one.
That's a pretty good one. The only other thing you might because we started with Van Halen was if you want to do that version of Eruption that I sent you, because it's the one time I played it pretty decent.
I have seen this, and you did play it really well. Let me see if I can pull this up here. But yeah, so this is Dweezil doing Eruption. Here, hold on. Let me pull this up here. Ding, 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 ding. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah.
Well, there it was. Yes. Somebody asked what year that was. I think that was around 2011, maybe.
Yeah, dude, that was killer. That was killer. Well, do you have anything else you want to share, or is there any other questions?
I've got this little dog here named Rollo. He is a rescue that just showed up at our house during this lockdown time 2 months ago. So he's kind of our friend, and we it's pretty funny because we don't really do too much social media, but a friend in the neighborhood also has a dog that's around the same size as Rollo, and we pretend that they have a band, and now they have their own Instagram called Rufus and Rollo. And it's actually like, I don't have really anything to do with it. I make comments on it from time to time, but the pictures are kind of hilarious. And eventually we're going to do something fun with them where we're going to ask people to write some music for Rufus and Rollo. But it's just one of those things to have fun with in a time when fun is almost illegal,
Dude, right?
Yeah.
Jason Martinez, again, thank you. Says, thanks for doing this. And he purchased my guitar, wants to kill your mama back in high school. Loves your family. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, dude, thank you again so much. And I just want to remind everybody again that for all you Van Halen fans out there, and fans of this channel where we dissect tunes and start and stop them and talk about different parts, Dweezil, your podcast is awesome. It is very, very, very cool for all of us that know this music and love this music and miss him terribly, to hear it for anything, for fresh ears, and fresh perspective, and hear people like you and other players that we look up to and admire talk about it with the same giddiness, like, oh, no, let me show you this track, let me show you this part, is really, really, it's just a treat, man. It really is. So, again, the links are in the description, everybody. It's called Running with the Dweezil. I highly encourage it. Remember that also he has reward music that just launched in September. Those links are also in there. And, dude, if you ever come through if touring resumes, you come through the Baltimore Mid-Atlantic area, I'll be sure to come out and say hi in person.
Well, that would be great. We'd love to be able to do that. And thanks to everybody for spending some time with us this evening. Thanks for having me. I enjoy the videos that you make, Michael, and I think
Thanks,
that you're
dude.
going to have a lot more people that are going to support you and enjoy the things that you're doing, because you have a fun way of teaching, and that's what it is. When people start playing, you need a way to get in that makes it fun. And, even when you already know how to play a little bit, you have to remember that the word play is part of this. And you just kind of have to keep yourself, into it in that way. So I enjoy watching the things that you do because it reminds me to have fun with stuff. And I appreciate you having me here. And hopefully people will check out the podcast and Reward Music, and we'll see you again soon.
Sounds good. On that note, stay right there. We'll let Eddie carry us out and say what I always say, just like you said. Don't forget to have fun and why you picked it up in the first place, and just keep it in your hands. And so here's Eddie saying his version of that.
Eddie Van Halen here, telling you, keep playing, man. Gotta keep playing. It's the only thing there is. Music, man. Keep playing. All right? I'm gonna come looking for you if you don't.
Yep, that's right. It would have been such a treat to be able to have him on the podcast and share all these stories, so that people could know, so he could know how much it meant to people.
Yeah, for sure. All right, take care, everyone. Hang tight 1 minute. Thanks so much. Sure. Moderators, you guys crushed it as always. Thank you. Thank you for everybody that super chatted. We'll see you guys real soon. Cheers.